Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm 13 News Now meteorologist Craig Moeller, joined with my colleague, meteorologist Evan Stewart. We have a weather impact alert for our area, and got to tell you, this storm has really worked out. Evan, it was pretty amazing to see this thing coming in. It was well advertised, and it really
Yes,
did what it was supposed to do.
it really did do what it was supposed to do. We saw the snow come in around midday yesterday, started out as some flurries. You mentioned yesterday how you were saying, don't be caught off guard because it wasn't going to accumulate fast in the beginning. It was really in the evening that we got those snow rates of 1.5, almost 2 inches an hour.
And when it came, it just kept coming and coming and coming. We're going to go ahead and show you some of the storm totals as we go over the next 25 minutes or so. But what we want to do right now is talk to you some more about what is still to come, and we're going to track our upper level energy across the area. So you're looking at the possibility of additional snow showers. We're tracking some of that right now. We do have, again, this snow that's been interesting. At times it's been very light. At other times it's been kind of, a little more moisture laden, and it's been heavier. There's even some ice at the lowest levels of the snow that's fallen. And what we're concerned with is potential refreezing and a hard refreeze as we go through the overnight and into tomorrow morning. And then again, I think a repeat of that cycle as we look forward to Saturday. So while we have more sunshine over the next couple of days, we do have the potential for a lot more issues on the roads with the refreezing. Take a look at the upper level energy. Evan, what are you seeing right there?
Well, right now we're watching that upper level system start to swing in here through Hampton Roads. We talked about yesterday that we had the main storm that was moving off, and we've seen that happen already. And this storm is continuing to strengthen as it works its way off towards the east. And as it strengthens, we'll see those winds start to pick up a little bit this afternoon. But that back edge, that upper level energy is swinging through now, and we're already starting to see a few snow flurries through parts of the region. Saw some pretty good snows coming down about 20 minutes ago at the LFCU Oyster Point, their camera that we were watching. And again, we got that batch right now moving through the heart of Hampton Roads area, right across the Monitor Merrimack and the HRBT.
All right, we'll go ahead and take this full, and I want to zoom in a little bit more and show you some of these areas where we're seeing some of the snow falling right now. And it looks like as we're going along, well, somebody just took control. Hunter, I think you just took control of Max 1. So you're looking at the radar there. There we go. All right, so as we take a look, we can adjust now. Let me go ahead and switch up that source. We have, let's see here. I'm going to go and bring that down. There we go. There's Max 1. All right, so we have across the area, again, the snow reaching the Monitor Merrimack and the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. It's been fairly light. Evan, you were tracking some snow flurries a little bit earlier, and what we're going to continue to find across the area, again, this opportunity for the light flurries. It doesn't look like it's going to add up to much as we go along, and I do want to get into the Futurecast and talk a little bit more about that. But again, Evan, just what you were noticing on those sky cams a little earlier.
Right, we were seeing some of those flurries start to come in. We were looking at, again, mainly just some light snow. We'll go ahead and take a look. Let me see if we can pull up some of those cameras across the area and show you what we've been seeing throughout parts of Hampton Roads right now. So we'll start out with the Weston off towards the north, show you what's going on there. And you'll be able to see, this is actually at the Chamberlain up in Hampton right now that you're seeing there. As we look out over the Chesapeake Bay, as we take a look out at the Virginia Beach ocean front right now, you can see this is at the Beach Quarters Resort. We have that snow that is out there on the ground, on the sand, on the dunes, and even the boardwalk we were watching earlier, we saw somebody, Alex Littlehales was out there, and he had somebody that was doing some cross-country skiing out along the ocean front. It really is. This again is Nauticus looking over the Elizabeth River, and you can see some of those snowflakes that are coming down.
Light flurries. Now, we'll say as we take a look here, if we go back over to Weather 1, and I can actually jump in here with the Futurecast. I'll take this over at the wall. The activity that we're going to see is going to be very light. I was looking at all the different models, the graph, and I was looking at some of the others, the HER, that's the high resolution rapid refresh model. All of them were showing some activity with the upper level energy, but none of them were really producing a tremendous amount. So you see some of this snow kind of pushing into the area, but it's not coming through in those dark blues that we were seeing earlier with the heavy snow that really added up. You're just seeing a very light to maybe at times some moderate little snowfalls, but it's just not going to be persistent enough to really add up to much at all. The model's all suggesting maybe a dusting up to a tenth or a quarter of an inch in a few spots, but nothing really heavy, and you do see that drying trend that'll take place with clearing. It's going to be those overnight lows that drop down into the teens that really have us concerned with a hard refreeze overnight. Areas that are slushy and a little wet right now are going to freeze solid, even towards the ocean front where temperatures are going to be in the mid-20s, but it's especially these low 20s and teens where I'm very concerned with ice. And again, Evan, even with some of the light activity, that we're seeing now, even a little bit of a light dusting over some of the snowpack that we already see can make things even slicker than they already have been.
That's right, and that's one of the concerns that we're going to be watching as we go here through the remainder of the afternoon, is that light dusting coming in and possibly, we've already got the roads that have been traversed. I know the main roads are really clear as I was coming in. Interstates are in great condition. Primary roads, when I was coming in down St. Paul's and Brambleton, there were a few spots, but for the most part, things were pretty good. And then as we got into areas, into the neighborhoods, that's where it gets a little bit worse because, of course, the crews haven't been out there. They haven't been, they don't get into the neighborhood, so they don't treat those roadways and get into the roads quite the same way.
I wanted to talk a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of the snow reports from this morning, and we can come back and talk a little bit about this as a team forecasting. When we're calling for 6 to 10 inches of snow all across Hampton Roads with amounts locally higher up to 12 inches, that can be a little nerve-wracking. I've been working here since 1997. I started back in May of '89. Evan, you started here, a year before I did,
Yeah, I
right?
started in '95.
Okay, a year and a half before I did. Evan started. And again, in your time here, we've seen a few big snowfalls, but these are really rare events.
Yeah, they are very rare. As a matter of fact, this is going to go down in the record books as one of the top 10 snowfalls here in Hampton Roads. So there's some of those snowfall totals that we've seen around the area. But yeah, this is one of the top 10 snowfalls. It probably will be in the top 15 of snow events.
So
Yeah.
I have an update on that,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
Because Evan, I got to tell you, so I mean, we have literally been working together for 26 years.
Yes.
No, longer than that. How long has it been? 28? Well, I took 3 years in St.
That's
Louis.
right.
But I mean, all total, it's been a long time.
Yes.
So we've seen some of these things. Evan started the graphics last night, and he looked into what you had up through, I think, 11 o'clock or so.
Yes, because
All right.
we didn't get that after midnight stuff.
Let me show you what we had as of this morning. I'm going to pull up this graphic, and Evan can reveal this to you. Norfolk wound up with 10.2 inches. That was through midnight. That wound up as the 8th greatest one-day or daily snowfall total from midnight to midnight on record. These records have been kept since 1890. So really amazing event.
Right. Yeah, and we were looking back, Mike Gooding did a story on the 1989 snowfall that we had, and we had a lot of folks emailing in saying, well, what about 1980? What about 1980? Well, I was 6 years old. I remember.
Right. The circus
Yeah,
blizzard.
the circus blizzard, and that was in March, but we had another 12-inch snowstorm in February, so we kind of had back-to-back blizzards, so a lot of people remember 1980 for that reason.
Right.
The circus blizzard was number 4.
Okay.
One of the oldest records goes back into the 1890s. I think it was 1892 or somewhere in
There's
there.
a couple really long-standing ones.
And those you have to wonder a little bit. Not saying that they didn't know how to measure snow in the 1800s, but some of the records from that time period. Well, instruments weren't as accurate. Those sorts of things.
The other thing is the reporting station location where we keep the
yeah.
record has changed as well. I mean, at times I guess it was in downtown Norfolk.
Right.
Then when they made the airfields, they brought them out to the airfields and eventually to Norfolk International. But the bottom line is this was a pretty epic event. And when you look at what we got since midnight, and we did get additional snowfall, bringing the total to 10.6 inches, that landed us at number 12 on the all-time record for snowfall events. Now, I will say there may have been a little additional snowfall since then. I was waiting for the National Weather Service. They said they're going to put out a final,
Right.
because some of the areas very close to the airport were showing closer to 11. So that official number may bump up. We might see maybe number 11. It could
Yeah.
go up a little bit more. But bottom line is it definitely ranks in the top 15.
That's right, and again, Norfolk International, you mentioned, that was in the 1940s when
It
they
started.
built the airport. It started out as a golf course originally, and then they built the airport there, and of course that's where the official records have been kept
Right.
since then. And that's traditionally what's happened in most locations. Your airports are your location of record because obviously the airports needed
Right.
accurate weather information.
You've got to have the
Yeah.
instrumentation there, and the same thing with the radars. They always want to make sure there's coverage at those terminals as well. All right, back to our snow reports. We'll take a look at some more that we've seen across the area. How about Virginia Beach at Sigma? 12.1. It was central and southern parts of Virginia Beach got quite a bit. Although I will say I got an unofficial report from one of my pickleball buddies.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew had sent in a report saying he was measuring close to 14. And I said, I didn't see anything quite that high, and asked him, did you take several on average? And he said he did. He said there may have been a little bit of drifting involved there, but the bottom line was he and another one of his neighbors had close to 13 there on the north end of it. And again, some of these higher amounts of snow we saw in Norfolk were also Ocean View and right along the bay. So there may have been a little bit more moisture available coming in off the bay to enhance those totals right there at the beaches.
That's right. I wanted to switch over to our Skyview camera here in Norfolk, and you can see the snowflakes now coming down. We got a pretty good band that is coming through right now, and I'm going to actually
Yeah, let's take a look at the satellite and radar.
Yeah, let's see, that is on max 4, so I'll go ahead and switch over to that. And that's the radar loop, and you can see that heavier band that is coming through that area of some darker blues that are coming in, and we'll switch over to the computer that Craig's controlling, so we'll zoom in there and get a little closer look too.
Yeah, you take a look again, it is coming down now, and we have the evidence with the sky views. And again, I appreciate your handiwork on the switcher there, Evan, being able to show these. Right now, it looks like snow is coming down around the southern tip of the eastern shore, back across Chesapeake Bay. Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, Monitor Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, both these areas seeing some of this right now. You see these areas in with the snow. But what we're going to find again, like the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, also dealing with flurries. There's flurries right now showing up around the Lynn Haven Inlet as we zoom in around the Lessener Bridge. Again, this light activity with roads already snow-packed and some of those areas starting to get maybe a little more compaction or just slickness with the roads. I'm a little concerned with even a light coating in some spots that we could have even more tricky driving conditions.
That's right, and again, the crews have done a great job getting the roads, putting down that brine solution, so that will keep stuff from refreezing to about 25 degrees. So I'm not as concerned about the roads that have already been clear, but some of the roads that have already had cars drive over, they pack some of that snow down, it's turned into ice, and then you get another layer of, even if it's just a half inch or a quarter inch, that is going to give you another opportunity to put some slick snow on top of the already slick ice.
Now, those of you that are maybe suffering a little PTSD from the heavy snow that we just had, you need to know this is not going to be an all-day event. This is upper level energy. We were tracking it this morning well to the west. We knew that was going to progress through. We knew we were going to see it late morning to early afternoon. And honestly, as quickly as it's tracking, some of the areas out to the west are already kind of making it through the backside.
Right, we're already starting to see that snow come to an end right along Interstate 85. And right the county lines, Southampton into Sussex County, we're seeing that snow start to wind down, just a few flurries. But where we see those darker blues, that again is where we're seeing some of that heavier snow, well, moderate snow. We'll call it moderate snow through the area.
So it's coming down. We'll go ahead and show you the loop here, and you can see that line pressing on through. Evan, I'm interested in your thoughts. Any surprises at all with this system? This was one of those classic scenarios, and it looks like the flurries we were looking up around Oyster Point there in City Center in Newport News have kind of wound down a little bit, at least for the moment. And that makes sense when you look at the radar here. They're kind of on the back edge up in Newport News. But that's
Yeah,
Norfolk
Wi-
Botanical
no,
Garden.
that's actually William and Mary.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, that's actually William and Mary, and we saw some students out there yesterday.
Snowball fight?
They actually, somebody had put in there, I love William and Mary.
Okay.
They pretty much did that in the snow. I've been waiting to catch some of those snowball fights, though. I think there's supposed to be one in Get later today.
I heard about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, a scheduled snowball fight, and this is really good packing snow for this, so
Yeah.
I think folks will enjoy that.
This is the ocean front, of course, at the DQ Grill and Chill, and you can see some folks out there working their way up towards the boardwalk.
It is a chilly time to be out at the ocean front. I was looking at some temperatures earlier this morning. We've pretty much been in the, oh, there's your snow right there, showing up from Nauticus, looking back across Town Point Park.
Yeah, that a couple different views there from Nauticus. We have 2 cameras on there, so we can look up and down the Elizabeth River. But yeah, that one, some of that might be a little bit of blowing snow off the roof of Nauticus, but still looking very nice, a winter wonderland out
Yeah,
there.
and as I was checking in earlier, we really weren't seeing as much blowing snow as I thought we might be seeing at times. You maybe see a
Yeah.
little bit of it every once in a while, but that's largely the snow flurries coming through. And the heart of it is really over Nauticus and that sky view right now. So that's great camera work. All right, so you can see again, this line is coming through, and that's why we're streaming. We know a lot of folks are interested in knowing. We're going to have our full forecast update, and I'm also going to have a little phoner with Tim Pandages talking about what was making him nervous and most excited about last night. I'm sure, Evan, you here with him, you guys had a few moments where you're like, wow, it's really happening.
That's right. So I was just thinking, the cruise ship, the Sunshine, returns on Monday. So the folks who left back on the 16th, so who left on Sunday, so that's actually one of the longer cruises. I think that must have been the 8-day cruise. So they'll be coming back. It'll be warmer by then, but I think there'll still be some snow on the ground in some spots on Monday.
It was funny because didn't they have a threat of snow or something as they were leaving? Because I remember we were joking
Right, it was the
about trying
wind.
to get out.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was the wind. That's right. So they were supposed to leave on Sunday. They left on Monday, I think it was, because of the wind. We had the strong winds that were coming through.
Yeah, it's been something else. So now they're going to come back and say,
Yeah,
what happened to Norfolk? You guys are buried in snow. At any rate, the big concerns for the next couple of days, again, the snow that's on the ground, those secondary roads. Evan, I'd also be interested to know just your experience driving in this morning. What did you see? How bad were the roads? I can tell you coming in at 1 o'clock this morning or 2 o'clock, whatever time it was, we had a lot of snow everywhere.
Yeah, so I left the station just after midnight last night. Well, it's probably about 12:20 because it took me about 15 minutes to get all the snow
Right.
off the car as I was getting off work. And of course, we had everybody here. One of our directors, Josh, had I had a leaf blower. And
Okay.
he was
All
blowing
right.
some of the snow off the car. So the difference from then until I came in this morning, there were some parts of interstate that I would give like a B. Where they had plowed and some of the ruts and some of the snow that had been tossed, you would change lanes if you had to because at one point one part of the interstate would be clear and the other part wouldn't, and then it kind of just switched up depending on how they were going through the ramps and stuff like that. So as you were changing lanes and you would have to go through some of that snow that was piled up, it could get a little squirrely. By this morning, as I was coming in, interstates were great.
Yeah.
Most of the primary roads, as I was coming down Great Bridge
Pretty good.
Boulevard, as I was coming down Brambleton, St. Paul's, pretty good. Now coming out of my neighborhood, which of course hasn't been touched other than a couple of people who had, driven through, that's where I saw some of the biggest issues. Again, if you don't have at least all-wheel drive, I wouldn't be out there
Yeah,
on
it's
the
not
secondary
worth,
roads. Yeah.
trying to throw yourself out there. Again, if you're on the primaries, you're probably okay, at least during the daylight. But again, with that refreezing tonight, anything
Yeah.
that looks wet will be frozen solid. And the other thing, I've said, even with all-wheel drive, I was driving last night. Part of the coverage during the 150 minutes of news from 4 to
210.
6, or,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah,
it was a lot last night. Looking at that, I was doing fine. The truck was
Right.
great. But I saw a guy come around, and it took him several twists and turns to straighten his car. And I thought, man, if this guy comes around with the momentum, he may come close to me. You could get hit by somebody else that maybe isn't prepared. So even if you think, oh, I got this, no problem, you might want to use extra caution.
That's right, and you mentioned, the one thing, whether you have four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, that makes a big difference in the snow. It makes
But
zero
with
different than ice.
Yeah, no difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will slide even with four-wheel drive with ice. And I was doing some demonstrations out there with the truck out in the parking lot, and it really is, even with a truck that's lifted and I've got great tires, we're still a little spinning out there. So we just want folks to really use caution. That's a big deal.
Although the thing with the truck, you don't have a lot of weight in your bed, I assume.
Right, that's why you got to go four-wheel drive to get
Right.
that weight on the engine, up front.
Yeah.
But my point, though, I mean, even with all four engaged, you still, with this surface, it's pretty slick out there. So again, the reason we're on here live streaming is because we do this next batch of snow working across the air. If we can go back to some of those cameras, Evan, I thought that was awesome. If we could show what's happening again from Nauticus, there's a look there. You see the snow coming back down. This was all in the forecast. We've been saying for more than a week that we were looking at the potential for a snow event. Then it became a significant snow event really over the weekend. I mean, we started ramping up the conversation about it. Then we had declared this a weather impact alert for yesterday into today, knowing that we were going to get the heavy snow. And this has all really worked out pretty much according to plan. I mean, very little surprises.
Right. We saw that mixing down across North Carolina. Saw some minor accumulations along the Outer Banks before it changed over to some rain. We saw some of that sleet mixing in even last night when we had our reporters out down in Elizabeth City. They were reporting some of that sleet. And one thing I want to point out, so we had our reporter in Elizabeth City. That was more of a wet snow, had a little bit of that sleet, making awesome snowballs.
Right.
Shane, who was up in Hampton, could not make the snowball because, it was drier, the humidity was lower, so you were looking at it more of a fluffy, dry snow. So that
Evan,
was interesting.
I'm
yeah.
so glad you brought that up because I was making the same comment. I said, some areas, and we had Dominion Energy coming on and saying, oh, it was a light snowfall. It's very fluffy, very powdery. And I'm thinking, okay, you're located closer to Richmond because
Right.
as you're farther south, there was and is more moisture content. It's a slushier, heavier snow. So this is really one of those things where you're closer and we got some of that kind of nose of warmer air mixing
Right.
in. A lot more moisture content to the snow, and where that moisture was just thrown into extremely cold, dry air, it was more powdery. It really depends on where you are. So that's a very, very valid point. Let's take a look at one more list of snow totals. I think I showed you a couple of them. I wanted to show this last one here. Take a look at some of these areas down to the south. Even Burnt Mills down in Camden, and you look at Nixonton there in Pasquotank. 6.5 to 7 inches.
Yeah, no, we had a report from Water Lily. Last night that was 7, and we probably added a little bit more on to that. But yeah, even Nixonton down in Pasquotank County, 6.5 inches of snow.
A lot of snow. All right, so one more time we'll look at the radar and just let you know we are seeing the snow right now coming through the area. This is light to moderate for the most part. In some places just a heavy flurry. In other areas maybe a light band of snow showers. There could be some very, very minor accumulations, but it will not add up to much. We're just seeing this kind of dusting or heavy coating maybe for some areas. Aside from that, we're going to see clearing later today. And when you look off to the north, you see already some of the wave cloud patterns that's forming with the winds perpendicular to the mountains. It's really cool to look at these satellite images. We are going to see clearing skies later tonight, and that's going to allow temps to really drop.
Right, down into the teens. Yeah. And the snowpack, makes it even colder as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting next 48 hours. Not in terms of additional snow. We're almost done with that, but it will be quite cold, and we're going to be watching those cycles of refreezing. So,
yeah, I just saw. Yeah, Kyle, one of our producers, would look like he was trying to come in the weather door.
well, this is a working weather
Yes,
center,
it is.
and that is a working newsroom. And right now, what we have to do is get ready for the noon show. So, Evan, thank you so much for joining me here with this weather impact alert, this special live stream. I'll encourage everybody to tune in to 13 News Now. If you are watching us on the 13 News Now Plus app, you found a great way to stream our coverage. We're going to have our 13 News Now at noon, an hour-long show, again, with reporters out in the field covering the snow that has fallen and what is happening right now. Evan, thanks so much. I want everybody at home to stay safe, stay warm, and keep checking back with us here at 13 News Now.